All authority comes from God, especially the police. In April, there was an incident involving a custody dispute which ultimately led to a Texas cop in Hunts County hitting a 38-year-old pregnant woman. Video footage showed cops entering into the home of Deanna Jo Robinson, an Air Force veteran, without a warrant in order to take her 18-month-old son away from her on the orders of Child Protective Services. A series of events ultimately led to an officer repeatedly hitting her despite her continual warning that she was pregnant. The video footage has led to an outrage. Following this incident, Hunt County Sheriff Randy Meeks wrote an editorial in the Herald Banner. More specifically, in response to a grand jury clearing one of his deputies of any legal culpability in the videotape beating of Robinson, the pregnant Air Force veteran. In this editorial, Sheriff Meeks espouses his belief that all authority, including his, comes from God. In the editorial, Sheriff Meeks writes, "Due to recent events, I can no longer be silent concerning what our country allows. It is amazing to me that criminals who break into our homes and steal from us, those who sell drugs to our children, those who abuse innocent and defenseless children, those who rape our wives and daughters, those who commit cold-blooded murders are all innocent until proven guilty. Yet law enforcement officers are found guilty as soon as it appears that the officer has done something wrong. Way before the whole incident can be reviewed and the truth obtained, that officer is found guilty and nobody cares what the facts are. This, folks, is a travesty." Sheriff Meeks goes on to assert that though officers make mistakes, they are ultimately very few. He then goes on to cite Romans 13:1 and 13:2 as support for his claim that all authority comes from God. Romans 13:1 states, "Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God." Romans 13:2 goes on to assert, "Whoever therefore resisteth the power resisteth the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation." Hindu extremists threaten Christians. In India, there has been heightened hostilities against Christians. Reports claim that they began late last year. These hostilities have continued on and even intensified, with Hindu extremists conducting forced conversions from Christianity to Hinduism and threatening Christians. The Hindu extremists have been noted as saying they would cut them, meaning Christians, into pieces if they continue to worship Christ. These heightened tensions have already forced at least 10 families to flee their home in Rajasthan, in the northern province of India. Pastor Malkeet Singh told the Morning Star that Christians have not been able to attend services since June 27th, when Hindu extremists threatened to kill anyone worshiping Christ in a church service. In the middle of July, these extremists held a homecoming to Hinduism ceremony where they forcibly converted Pastor Patrap Singh and some of his family members to Hinduism. Pastor Singh has been a minister in his community for 15 years, but he was forced to go into hiding after he started receiving death threats. However, he was forced out of hiding, and in front of a gathering of 600 people, he and his family members were forced to worship Hindu idols, sign a paper stating that he was willing to convert to Hinduism, forced to drink water procured from the Ganges River, and marked with cum-cum on their foreheads, which indicated they were now Hindus. In another village, not far from Pastor Singh's village, another 50 Christians were also forcibly converted to Hinduism, and the extremists have threatened to kill them if they ever go back to church again. Furthermore, another Christian leader, Anil Masih, was quoted as saying the extremists threatened to socially boycott the Christians if they continue to worship Christ and threatened to kill them if they submit a police complaint against anyone. Rajaman Johnson, the regional secretary of the Friends Missionary Prayer Band, explained that since the election of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Bharatiya Janata Party-led National Democratic Alliance last May, radicals in Rajasthan have claimed that they are state leaders of the BJP party and that they have the power to prevent worship if they want. The support they get from the police in the village has also emboldened their actions. William Stark, South Asia Regional Manager of the Christian persecution watchdog group International Christian Concern, further supported these claims by noting that the culture of impunity these radicals enjoy under the current government has only encouraged more intolerance and violence. To put things in perspective, it took 9 months and 2 public admonitions from President Obama to get Prime Minister Modi to even speak out on the issue of growing religious intolerance in his country. Muslim flight attendant supposedly suspended for refusing to serve alcohol. A flight attendant of the Islamic faith, Cherie Stanley, filed a discrimination complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission against her employer ExpressJet after she claimed to have been fired from her job in direct relation to her religious beliefs. Stanley, who had been working for ExpressJet for 3 years, converted to the Islamic faith about 2 years ago. She then recently learned that her religion prohibited her from not simply consuming alcoholic beverages, but also from serving it to others. She sought out a religious accommodation with her supervisor, and it was at the direction of the airlines that she began coordinating with the other flight attendant on duty so that when a passenger requested alcohol, the other flight attendant would accommodate that request. The religious accommodation made by the employer had apparently worked well until a co-worker filed a complaint against Stanley, where she asserted that she was not fulfilling her duties, which required the serving of alcoholic beverages. According to CNN, the employee complaint also said Stanley had a book with foreign writings and wore a headdress. Cherie Stanley was then placed on a 12-month administrative leave following the complaint. Lena Masry, Stanley's attorney, states, "What this case comes down to is that no one should have to choose between their career and their religion, and it's incumbent upon employers to provide a safe environment where employees feel they can practice their religion freely." A spokesman for ExpressJet, Jarek Beam, stated via email that, "At ExpressJet, we embrace and respect the values of all of our team members. We are an equal opportunity employer with a long history of diversity in our workforce. As Ms. Stanley is an employee, we are not able to comment on her personnel matters." Meanwhile, Cherie Stanley argues that, "I don't think I should have to choose between practicing my religion properly or earning a living."